What's going on, heavy heads? Welcome back to the channel. As always, thank you guys for joining me. We're continuing to count down my top 50 favorite metal moments of 2020. We're talking EPs, albums, singles, as well as some live performances. Do me a favor, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. Hook up with me on Twitter and Instagram. Let's get heavy! Starting off at number 40, we've got the Swedish mellow death band Orbit Culture. Now, I did a reaction video for a song called Red Fog off of a previous EP, and then I did the song Open Eye. After I did the reaction video for Open Eye, I was all in. I had to check these guys out. I will say, though, that I have not actually checked out any of their older work. So if you guys want to make any recommendations for older Orbit Culture songs, please do so before I actually start getting into some of their older discography. So I really love the way that this band blends the style of the Swedish mellow death with more of the American thrash like Metallica and Testament, as well as it just so happens that the lead singer, Nicholas, his voice is very reminiscent of a James Hetfield. I really like the that style of clean. If I'm gonna hear some cleans, give me some attitude with them. I really feel like this album overall is almost like a celebration of a lot of the things that would have gotten me into metal in the beginning. You know, the songs, they have a lot of that build up. There's a lot of just classic thrash to it. These soaring melodic choruses, and then they can just absolutely pummel you with some real death metal at times too. Another thing that I was really digging about the album overall is that it just felt very balanced. They bring a lot of elements to the table, and it felt very even kind of throughout the album. You've got songs like Open Eye and Day of the Cloud that are just pummeling a lot of death metal, low gutturals. We've got songs like North Star of Nija and Mirror Slave that just have that real good bounce to them, a lot of groove. And then there are a couple of tracks actually that I kind of thought might be skippers. We've got Rebirth and Behold, and then about 3/4 the way through the songs, both of those tracks really, Orbit Culture comes back in and they kick you in the huevos again. Love the album overall. A lot of great stuff here. If you haven't checked them out, do so. Next up on the list is a progressive death metal band out of the UK. This is Luna's Call. They came out with the album Void this year. This is a brand new band to me. I had not heard anything from them before. I was really blown away. There's probably a pretty easy test to determine whether or not you are going to dig them. If you like Opeth, especially the later Opeth, then you will like Luna's Call. I'm going to predict that. I could very well be wrong, but you cannot help but hear the Michael Ackerfeld type cleans, as well as some of the lows on this album. We've got a lot of progressive metal elements like Between the Buried and Me and Persephone. There is classic rock on this, and it's also got plenty of elements of tech, which I think are fantastic. These guys are highly skilled. If you really are somebody that likes the progressive metal that kind of pushes the boundaries, this might just be an album for you. Whereas with some albums in the progressive metal genre can get a little bit long in the tooth, songs can get a little bit too long in my opinion, they can kind of lose my attention. I felt like overall with this album I was really looking forward to every tempo change, every stop, every pause, and I was really just looking forward to, you know, where are we going next. So check it out and let me know what you think. Next up on the list, or next down on the list, is a band by the name of Caleteris. Sexy, right? This is a tech death band from Canada, somewhat of a supergroup actually. I'll go ahead and tell you guys now that the drummer, Eric Marotti, is the drummer for Suffocation, so there's one reason to check them out right there. I was a big fan of their 2014 release, Party Grind. They blend tech death with brutal death, deathcore. We've got grind. We've got some elements of hardcore. The thing to really take away from this is it's fucking heavy. But as heavy as their music is, the band themselves don't really take themselves too seriously. They like to include a lot of comedy and pop culture reference in their tracks, both the names of the tracks, also the lyrics, as well as clips, audio clips from different movies, things like Seinfeld, Ace Ventura. They really have got their own unique sort of thing going. There are some other bands out there, of course, that do similar things, but I would say this is one of the heaviest bands that you're going to find like that. I did feel like this release, however, the After Party, took a step away from the style of Party Grind. They did drop a little bit of that comedy overall, and I think they took the lyrics a little bit more seriously on this. This is definitely a more mature album. I'm really excited for what these guys are going to do in the future. Next up at 37 is Cytotoxin with their album Nucleus. Now, I was a huge fan of their previous album. I am a huge fan of Gamageddon. Now, with this album and the song that we did a reaction video for, Lupus Aurora, it definitely felt as though they dialed back that sort of cold assault of technical speed, the pig squeals. It felt like some of that was actually pulled back a little bit, and they decided to go for a little bit more groove, a little bit more of a bounce, definitely on this album overall. And overall, the album just feels like it's a little bit more organic, has a little bit more texture to it. It's not quite so mechanical. Now, is it better than Gamageddon? I probably can't say that yet. It's a great listen, however, and I think you guys need to get radioactive. Next up is the band Undeath with their debut full-length album, Lesions of a Different Kind. Out of Rochester, New York, they are right down the road from where I grew up as a kid, and I'll tell you what, this is one of the absolute grooviest death metal albums that has come out this year. There were so many moments that I just said, fuck, this is so good. Every single track is going to keep you engaged. I guarantee you that. So many rewind moments. I gotta hear that again. It's got plenty of that old school death metal feel, but yet it still feels very fresh. There is an abundance of just crushing riffs on here. You've got to hear this album. I will say that the production is just a little bit murky, but I honestly don't think you're gonna mind that one bit. Check this shit out. At number 35, we've got the Fallen Prophets. Their drummer, Dylan, reached out to me on YouTube, said I needed to check out some South African death metal. I was absolutely blown away with them. We did a reaction video for the song Nothing to Kill, Nothing to Feed On. Since then, they've actually already released an EP as well called No End in Sight. Check that out as well. But I'll tell you, the full-length album, Relentless Killing and Motivation, it's such a good example of a band going brutal but also retaining some hook. I feel like this album is super catchy. It's just fantastic start to finish. It does not let off the gas pedal, and I fucking love that. And if I didn't love them enough just for their music, they include the mutilation, the gore, the death, the violence. It's just, to me, PB&J. Next up on the list is a band I've already expressed a bunch of love for on the channel as well. This is Oceans of Slumber with their self-titled album, their fourth album overall actually, and third with current singer Cammie Gilbert. This is another very progressive death metal band. I would say that maybe even death doom overall, but their music is very soulful at times. It's very melodic at times. It can be crushingly heavy. I did a reaction video for the song Return to the Earth Below. So if you have not checked the band out yet, please go watch that video. I think it'll give you a good idea about what you're getting into. This album just feels like a heavy undertaking. There's just so much to it, and I will tell you, it actually was not quite as instantly catchy for me overall, but after listening to it a few times now, start to finish, this is my favorite album from Oceans of Slumber. I cannot wait to get the chance to actually see them live. The drumming by Dauber Beverly is phenomenal. I absolutely love the emotion in Cammie's vocals. Unlike a lot of death metal out there, though, this actually does discuss love and loss and struggles in life. So it feels like a very real album. It's an album that anybody could really connect to. This is an album that will absolutely stir up some emotion in you. I promise you that if you give it a chance. Number 33 on the list, we've got Mephistophelian with their album Anotos. I'm not really sure what the pronunciation is. This is a Slovenian brutal death metal band. If you like bands like Cytotoxin and Beneath the Massacre, maybe even Nile, I would highly recommend this album. Absolutely floored me. I follow the vocalist Julian of Benighted on Instagram. He actually showed the album. I did not know these guys whatsoever. He did a guest spot on the song Flesh Canvas on the album. There is a drummer by the name of Romain Goulan, necrophagist, drummed for Benighted as well, Disavowed. He's done Cognizance, I believe. There's so many projects he's done. Absolutely world-class drummer. There is not a lot of time to breathe on this album. Not only is it brutally heavy, but it's also got an absolute style all its own. So I just love it. If you like brutal death metal, check this album out. Counting down to number 32, we've got Necrophobic with Dawn of the Damned. This is a blackened death metal band. Now, Necrophobic is a band that I'm not completely new to. I've heard some of their stuff, but I never really gave them the time of day, I guess. And boy, was that a mistake. This was such a great album. I'm going to have to go back and listen to some of their other work. They really do have that sort of cold bleakness that you'll find in a lot of black metal, as well as the lyrical style, I would say, is the vast majority black metal. But unlike a lot of the black metal, the production on here is perfect, super crisp. The absolute overall standout is the guitar work on this album. Just absolute soaring solos. I would highly recommend taking this one from start to finish and go for that ride. Last and certainly not least, one of my favorite bands, Anal Nath Rock, released Endarkenment this year. Now, what I like about Anal so much is that they take all of the different elements that you find in extreme metal and they crank it to 11. They can have some of the most beautiful moments in a song, and they can also have some of the most horror-filled moments. The way that they use different elements from industrial or grind, and they do it just so damn well. But with this album, I will say overall, it's a little bit repetitive, but I think the thing that I love so much about this album is that Dave Hunt's cleans have never been more epic. And I feel like that's such a good way for them to actually get more people to get into the band. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some arguments for people saying that they prefer Anal of this year or that year, that album, this album. But I think that Anal is kind of on this path where they've kind of got a little bit more of a very tight formula, and I think that it makes the band a little bit more accessible for people to get into them, and more people getting into metal. That's always a good thing. Isn't that what we want? Well, there you go, guys. Another 10 down. Let me know in the comments, what are your favorite metal moments of 2020? Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Hook up with me on Twitter and Instagram. Until next time, keep it heavy.